Hear you.
All right, you guys
Yes,
sound good. All right, sounds good. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I want to just welcome the regional managers that have flown in with their spouses coming to Phoenix. We've been in meetings so far today, and we've got some meetings tomorrow. Just excited about the conversations that we're having. Just really appreciative of all the employees that have had the opportunity to join us today as we're going to be talking about leadership. And I really appreciate everyone's support over the years, and we had a great 2017, and we're looking forward to 2018. And so we have a couple of other special guests in the room, some team members from Project Lead. We're excited about a nonprofit that we're starting to help at-risk youth make a transition into the next phase of their life. And so today, can everyone online go on mute? If you're online, go on mute, please. Thank you. Today we're going to be launching a leadership initiative within Virtus Communications. I'm really excited about this next phase of our journey and where we're going as an organization. And first of all, before I get started, I want to just say thank you to Monica and Aaron, who have coordinated and put everything together, ordered the food, and just made sure that the agenda flowed and corrected all my PowerPoint presentations, the grammar, the grammatical errors and everything like that. So really appreciate their leadership in helping make this all possible. And we're definitely thankful for all that they've done. Today we're going to talk about what is leadership, and this is something that is near and dear to my heart, something that I have invested a lot of time into over the years since I started my leadership journey, well over 18 years. And it's something that I've envisioned being a part of the culture of any company or organization that I was a part of. And during that time of really just being a part and really studying leadership, understanding my leadership journey and where I am in my walk, is I've come to realize that at times, if we're not careful, when we hear the word leadership, when we see leadership, we think of people that have done great things, people that have gone on and have made a profound impact in our lives and in the lives of other people. But one of the things I've come to realize is that there is, we all are leading where we are, and that's one of the things that I'm learning to do, is really to enjoy the journey that I'm on. And you are part of that journey. You're part of what we're doing here at Virtus Communications, and also you're on a leadership journey. You're also on a leadership journey. And so today we're going to be talking about what is leadership. And there's a lot of information out there on leadership. I'm sure many of you have studied leadership, are reading leadership books and things like that. And one of the things that I have in my journey and in this process is really trying to define what is leadership. What is leadership? And it's not necessarily how to lead or the qualities of a good leader. It's what is leadership in its purest form. How do you define it? And over the years, it's one of those things where if you were to ask me, Charles, tell me what leadership is, I probably could not have given you a direct answer of what and define what exactly leadership is. I could tell you how to lead. I can share with you qualities of the leaders. I can share with you a list of, hey, here's some great leaders to potentially model your life after. But what is leadership in and of itself? And as I begin to, as I ask myself that question and begin to think about it, I begin to see leadership in a different light. And so today, I'm not going to share with you anything that you don't already know. Okay, you've heard a lot about leadership. You know about leadership. Hopefully, all I want to accomplish today is to maybe provide some additional perspective and to reframe how you see leadership. Because over the last year and a half or so, as I ask myself the question, what is leadership, I begin to see things just a little bit differently. And I begin to see leadership I begin to see leadership in our employees. I begin to see leadership in everyday life. And I'm really excited about being able to share what leadership is all about. Okay?
Keep that in mind.
Let me see here if I can get this clicker working. Is the clicker not working? For those of you, we have some work going on in the background, but we'll definitely do our best to. Okay. All right. So, when you look at these images here, think about how these images of leadership make you feel, right? We're seeing leadership, and we're seeing that these images have if we're not careful, what will happen is that as we consider the feelings, and when I was looking at these images, I really began to look at my life and say, do I measure up to that image? Is that something that Charles can connect with? And maybe as you're looking at these images, maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe you're feeling unqualified to be a leader. Maybe you're looking at it and saying, well, that's really not me. I'm not sure what emotions you're feeling right now, but leadership, many times, if we're not careful, we'll perceive it as it's for a select few people. It's for some other people. It's not necessarily for me, but it's for someone else. And as I begin to really assess and look at my perspective on leadership, I began to see that leadership is not for a select few people. It's not for, the people that are born into the right family, people that are famous. Leadership is being displayed in your life and in my life on a daily basis. And being a part of Virtus Communications, the 23 employees that we have today, and we're looking at growing and expanding, it's exciting to see each of you lead where you are. And today I want to acknowledge that leadership in your life, those leadership acts and the things that you do and the lifestyle that you're living every day displaying leadership. And so leadership, as we know, is not about a position, it's not about title, okay? It's about moving things forward. And so I want to share just briefly a little bit about my journey and my leadership journey. I started studying and really engaging in leadership in the summer of 1999. I was turned on to a book by John Maxwell called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And since that time, I've been studying leadership. I've been looking to improve my leadership, grow my leadership, and it's been a journey. And throughout that journey, I was moving in a direction, and I was learning to lead my life, learning to lead where I was, but I still had that nagging question: what truly is leadership? How do you define it? How do you quantify what is leadership? Because I found myself comparing myself with other people, comparing this person is doing this person is accomplishing this, and looking at my life and saying, well, am I truly leading? Am I measuring up to the leadership values or the leadership qualities of people that are accomplishing great things? And so as I began to think about and ponder this question, May 1st of 2016, and I've been journaling ever since, I started a journey and started to ask myself this question: what is leadership? How do I connect, and how do I, if someone were to ask me what leadership is, I can share with them a definition, define it in such a way that they understand it. It's not ambiguous, but it gives them also a clear definition so that they too can move forward, so that they too can see in their own life that they're leading. They're leading right where they are. Not everyone is called, and not everyone is going to lead large organizations. Not everyone is going to lead social movements. That's not that's not in everyone's journey, but we all have a place. And here at Virtus Communications, I'm pleased to be surrounded by leaders. And in this process, as I was beginning to really my understanding of leadership, my perspective started to be tweaked, and I started to see things differently. I started to see leadership qualities, and I started to see team members leading themselves. And I began to really just start to see things different, like, wow, we're all leaders. We all have it within us. We're born to lead. And so my perception of what leadership was began to shift. And it took me about a year and a half to kind of come to this aha moment. It's like, wow, we're leading right where we are. And I began to celebrate and see and acknowledge in my own mind, so that was a leadership moment right there. That team member is leading right where they are. Leadership truly is not about a position. It's not about a title. It is about you leading right where you are and learning how to do that and learning to embrace that leadership journey. And so before we get started and moving further, I want to define what is leadership. So one of the first things I did is, I went online and typed in what is leadership, right? And there was a great article by Kevin Cruz, but if you look at the definition of leadership, is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. That's what the leadership is defined as. John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Peter Drucker, these are all renowned leadership gurus. These are individuals that understand leadership. They have written several books about leadership. Peter Drucker says the definition of a leader is someone who has followers. And as I began to even read these definitions, I kind of found myself comparing myself with that definition of leadership. It's like, ooh, am I really a leader? Am I really qualified to be a leader? Warren Benson says leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. That sounds big, right? It's like, wow, am I actually translating? Do I have a big enough vision, and am I translating that into a reality? Bill Gates says, as we look into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. I had to ask myself the question, am I empowering others? Kevin Cruz says, leadership is a process of social influence which maximizes the efforts of others toward the achievement of a goal. Even as I began to look at those definitions, I was like, wow, am I a leader? Am I truly leading? Am I leading where I am? And so I began to, make some adjustments and really began to just step back and say, I have to be careful not to compare my journey and where I am in life with where these individuals are. Because it's not my journey, it's not my path. But that doesn't disqualify me, that does not mean that I'm not a leader. And I want to just say for each of you, you're leading right where you are. I see it every day. And that's what excites me. And one of the things that we want to do here at Virtus Communications is to acknowledge and to recognize the leadership that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And so as we continue down this path, I just want to share some things that I have come to believe and learn about leadership. I believe that everyone was born to follow and lead. We're all born to follow and lead. We're not leading in every area of our lives. We're following someone in some capacity. I believe that we're followers and leaders. You may not necessarily acknowledge or see that you're leading, but I've seen the leadership of every one of our team members. And so today I want to acknowledge that. One of the things I've also learned is that great followers are great leaders of self. Our team members, very proud to say, you guys lead yourself. You have great self-discipline. And it has translated into us as an organization moving forward. And so we're going to talk more about that. I believe that leadership exists to lead us through change and transition in life. How many of you are going through change and transition in your life, right? You're not where you are today. Where you are today is not where you were 5 years ago. You've gone through some change. Your life, your family life has gone through some transition. That takes leadership to lead yourself, to lead others through transition. As an organization, we're going to go through changes. We're going to go through transition. What do we need? We need people that are leading, team members that are leading. There was a survey done with CEOs, and one of the questions that they asked of those CEOs is, what is one of your biggest concerns about leading your organizations into the future? And one of the biggest concerns that a lot of CEOs have is that they don't have leadership at every level of the organization. They have people that think like managers. There's nothing wrong with that. But as we move into the future, it's going to take us all thinking like leaders and leading ourselves and leading our lives in such a way that helps move the organization forward. I also believe that if everything stays the same, you can manage. But if anything changes, you need to lead. Transition. Leaders help transition and move things forward. The difference between a leader and a manager is a leader moves forward with a degree of uncertainty, whereas a manager only moves forward when all is certain. There's going to be in leadership when you're leading your life, if you're leading an organization, if you're leading a team, there's always going to be a degree of uncertainty in anything that you do. You're not going to have all the answers, but when you're leading, the key, you got to move forward. You can't stay where you're at. I believe also that there are leadership moments that are presented to us daily. You don't have to be in a leadership position to take the initiative to lead in those moments, and that's where I've seen each of you, each of our team members, I've seen you lead where you're at. Lead in the field, lead in the back office, lead as far as managing team members. I see leadership throughout this entire organization. So leadership is about taking action to move yourself, someone, or something forward. I see each of you moving and helping move the organization forward. That is leadership. That's leadership. So let me give you a few examples of what I now see as leadership. And it seem somewhat comical, but moving locations, right? How many of you are living in the same place you grew up in as a child? Anyone? You had to move, right? I don't live in California anymore. I moved when I left for college, went to Dallas, Texas. From there, I continued to transition. You've moved. If you're moving from one place to another, you've never been to where you moved necessarily, but there's some coordination. There's some things that need to happen in order for you to transition from where you live today, where we're living, into where you want to go. That takes leadership. That's a leadership skill. That requires someone taking the initiative to go scout out where you want to live, find a place to live, whether it's a house, condo, apartment, whatever. You got to put a down payment on, or at least deposit, and you have to transition. So you have to, coordinate the movers. You have to coordinate. There's a lot of logistics involved. That's leadership. What about traveling to a new city? You ever been to a new city before? And everyone in the car is kind of figuring out, okay, what are we going to do? Someone has to schedule the itinerary. Someone has to take the reins. Okay, I'm going to drive, and we're going to go to these different places. Now we have Siri. We have our iPhones. We have apps to help lead us to where we want to go. But when I was coming up, when I was, a kid, they didn't have phones. So what do we have to do? If you're getting lost, if you had a map, your mom's probably yelling at your dad, go stop at the gas station and get what? Directions, right? So what do? You would drive to the gas station and you would get directions, right? That's leadership. Guiding, leading people from one place moving forward. That takes leadership. What about paying off debt? Anybody have any debt? I've got a few, right? Right? Paying off debt. You're like, well, what does that have to do with leadership? Well, paying off debt, to get to be debt free, that's going to take leadership. Why? Because some things have to change. There's some transition that has to happen in your spending habits, in how you manage your money, and how your family manages your money. So what happens? You have to make change. You have to transition. You can no longer do the things you used to do and expect different results. That takes leadership. Changing your diet or improving the process. Same thing. I see throughout our organization, I will see team members improve processes. They'll see something and say, we can do this better. They'll come to leadership and say, hey, let's do this, let's try this. They take the initiative. That's leadership. It's not about position. It's not about a title. It's about you leading right where you are, and I see that every day. Let me go back here. I'll give you a personal example. My oldest daughter is going to Germany, and she's 14. I've never been to Europe. And so that is a little, it's a daunting adventure for us as a family. And so I remember when she asked me, her mother and I, could she go to Europe for spring break, wanted to go to Germany. And Mom's like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm like, whoa. Dad's not quite ready for that, right? My daughter going to Europe. And so the interesting thing was, it was a process. And I don't know if she recognized it or not, or realized what she was doing, but she didn't really pester me that much, but she gave me the information. And I'd pick her from dance, a couple of times a week, and as we would drive home every so often, she said, Dad, have you looked at that piece of paper? I said, no, not yet. I'll get to it. I'm trying to delay it. And so throughout that process, she would just say, Dad, did you look at it? Okay, let's take a look at it. And it was one of those situations where I'm like, man, I feel like I'm being led down this path here. Yes, right? And so she began to just provide me information. And she began to, Dad, everything's going to be all right. There's 70 students going. There's going to be chaperones. And I just kind of felt myself going down this path as if she was just leading me. I'm like, what is going on here? I've got mixed emotions about sending my 14-year-old daughter to Europe, but yet still, she was leading. She was leading me toward a decision. And, she does great in school, has good grades, and so I'm like, well, there's really not a reason to say no, but still I have some concerns, I have some issues. She began to address those concerns. And before you know it, I'm saying, okay, here's what you got to do. That was an act of leadership. She was leading, she was influencing me as her dad to what? Say yes. Now, if she had bad grades, if she was, not doing well in school, she would not have had the influence for me to say, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and do that. But because she's doing the right thing, she's living a consistent life, and I'm seeing the maturity, it was easier to say, okay, we'll help fork over some money. What did she do? She started reaching out to family members and personal friends of ours, asking for donations. She started getting donations. She envisioned herself going to Europe, and she took action, and she moved forward. That is leadership. In its purest form, in the essence of leadership, that's leadership. And many of you do the same thing every day, and I wonder if we really recognize whether or not that we're leading right where we are. That it's truly not about a position. It's not about the end result of something, achieving something great, or achieving something that is creating something that is profound. It's not about that. It's about leading right where you are. And every one of you, I believe, is a leader. So I asked myself this question at the end of last year, and kind of the aha moment. Remember, in one of the previous slides, I showed you on December 21st, 2017. That was like, I figured it out, right? A year and a half of like, what is leadership? I mean, I'd find myself laying awake at night staring at the ceiling. What is leadership? Okay, I know what a quality of a leader is. I know how to lead, but what is it? And so the aha moment for me, and if you look at my journal, you'll see just all kind of I think I revised the definition of leadership at least 45 times, right? I'm just like, okay, no, that doesn't make sense. Oh, that doesn't quite pass the test, okay? And I would just kind of test it out, and I would, okay, is this person leading? And I began to just kind of pivot my definition of leadership. But the aha moment for me is when I asked myself this question: what are the things I must do that no one else can do for Virtus? At the end of last year, coming into 2018, and I stopped and said, okay, I just kind of paused and just thinking, preparing for 2018, I said, what must I do that no one else can do for Virtus? And when I asked myself that question, within a matter of 5 minutes, I wrote down 3 things. It just came to me, crystal clear. I'm like, oh, is that leadership? It just hit me. And the reason why I asked myself this question, let me just give you the backdrop, is that, Virtus is growing, and we've got we've made some organizational changes, and the thing around here is Charles, it's time for you to get out of the weeds. I got to get out of the weeds. I'm going to lead the business. The business is going to grow. Charles has to get out of the weeds, and guess what? Regional managers, you got it. You're accountable, right? And so in that process, I had to say, okay, if I'm going to hold my regional managers and team members accountable to delivering on services for our clients and for our organization, what are the things that I cannot delegate? What can't I delegate? What must I continue to do to lead this organization? And the light just went on. Here's what I discovered. Three things a leader must do. A leader cannot delegate to anyone else. Now, here's a cool thing. We talked about it. Every one of you are leaders. You're leading where you are. But here are the 3 things you cannot delegate. A leader must have a vision. They must see what is possible. You see what's possible in your own life. In your families, you see what's possible. You see what's possible within the organization. But as the leader and as the owner of Virtus Communications, I realized I had to have a vision. I've always had vision, but just didn't, I'm just making the connection. What are the 3 things I can't give up? Vision is one of them. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Secondly, A leader must align their actions toward the vision. Everything that I do must be in alignment with the vision that I have for this organization. Everything that I do. Thirdly, I must journey with others toward that vision. What's the journey? It's this time right here. It's us hanging out, us talking, us spending time in the field. You don't have to work for Virtus Communications. You can go work for anybody else. It's your choice. You're choosing to work for this organization. We love having you. We don't want you to go work for anybody else. But it's still a choice. And so there's a journey that happens that we're on. And that's part of it. So leaders see, they align, and they lead, or they journey. Those are three things. And in that process, what I understood after seeing that is the definition of what is leadership just flowed. Okay? Now I'm going to show you that here in a second. But let's talk about the three things. Leader must have a vision. They must see what is possible. Leaders see what is possible. They don't see what's impossible. They see what's possible. It may not exist today, but they see that it's possible. I mean, think about, the iPhone. Steve Jobs had to see that that was possible before it was. Elon Musk. I'm just throwing some names out there, right? So we can see. But they had to envision what existed, what could exist before it existed. That's vision. What do you envision for your life? What do you see for your life that may not be a reality today, but you see that it's possible? I'm reminded of we're actually going to go see a movie after this called The Greatest Showman, but there's another movie that really drove home this point, and it was Hidden Figures. It's about four young women who were part of the NASA space program. And one of the most chilling lines in that movie that just sent a chill down my spine is when, I forget the guy's name, but it was played by Kevin Costner. And he was talking with the woman that was the mathematician, I forget her name, Catherine. But one of the lines that just sent a chill down my spine is when he said, "I'm already on the moon." Before they got to the moon, he said, "I have to be there." And then when I thought about this, like, wow, he was leading the NASA program, and before we got to the moon, in his mind, he was already there. He saw what was possible. Even when things weren't going the way he wanted it to, as leaders, we have to maintain that vision. We have to maintain and see what is possible, because the vision is that beacon and that light that says, hey, that is possible. And we've got to turn around and those that are journeying with us say, hey, it's possible. We can go there. You do that in your life all the time. You may not recognize it, but you're doing it. You see what's possible in your life. You have dreams, you have goals, you have visions for your own life. You see what's possible. Leaders, they're not satisfied with the status quo. Leaders don't just maintain. They just don't manage and everything. There's a desire for growth. There's a desire for change. There's a desire to make things better. Leaders, I can tell, you guys aren't satisfied with status quo. You want to grow. You want to grow Virtus Communications. You want to grow in your own personal life. That's leadership. That's the start of leadership. Seeing what is possible. They see what doesn't exist today, but is possible for tomorrow. Vision is seeing what isn't a reality today as possible tomorrow. I believe each and every one of you have vision for your life. And you see what is possible. As a leader, we must have a vision. We must see what is possible. What's the second thing? What is leadership? Leaders, the second thing a leader must do, they must align their actions toward their vision. Leaders must take the first step toward what it is they see as possible. And then what happens is as leaders, we start to communicate with those that are around us. We start communicating, hey, we're going this direction. Their mindset is focused on what is possible. There is a laser beam focus on what they see as possible. Doesn't matter if it's getting out of debt. Doesn't matter if it's transitioning to moving to another city, right? You got to see it. You got to be focused on it. Yes, there's going to be distractions. Yes, there's going to be things that there are going to be times you're going to have to pivot. One of my biggest challenges in my leadership journey is I didn't want to pivot. I want to just stay the course. And life is just saying pivot. I'm like, no, I see, I'm focused. No, leaders have to pivot. Nonetheless, they don't lose focus. They don't lose sight of what it is they see as possible. They journey toward what they see as possible. They start taking steps. They start moving forward. Leaders are people of action. They've got to move. They don't want to stand still. They'll stand still for about 30 seconds and like, I got to keep moving. Leadership is about movement, moving forward. Their actions consistently align with their communication. So what happens when you're leading? Whatever you're saying, people are watching you. They want to see, are your actions, before they buy in, before they move forward, they want to make sure that your actions are aligning to what you say. And when you say something, everybody's watching. They're watching. And so as a leader, I have to make sure that whatever I'm communicating to this organization, whatever I'm communicating to clients, whatever I'm communicating to vendors, that it is consistent with the vision and the direction I see for Virtus Communications. You got to do the same thing in your own personal life, in your families, in your communities. It doesn't matter what you're involved in. You got to make sure that your actions align consistently with what you see as possible. Timing is everything. There will be times when taking no action is the right action. I just wanted to. There are times when sometimes you just have to pause and wait. That's a process, learning that. Thirdly, leaders, they journey with others toward the vision. Okay? Leaders, they teach, they train, they coach, they mentor, they encourage others. I've seen every single one of you do that. You guys coach each other, you guys help each other, you guys mentor each other. If a process is changing, you guys are communicating. That's leadership. That's what you get. Each one of you are leading right where you're at. They develop other leaders throughout the journey. They're patient with those who follow. They promote progress over perfection. They work to keep those following unified and in sync with the vision. We have our daily, sync up calls? It's about keeping us in alignment, keeping us going down the path, right, that we need to be going down. That's part of leadership. That's what leaders do. They keep the team in alignment. They focus on the journey and not the destination. Life is a continuum, just keeps going. Leaders aren't focused on a destination, they're focused on the journey. They're focused on moving things forward. You're focused on moving things forward. You're focused on your life and where things are. And it's just we're just fortunate that you're part of the journey of Virtus Communications. Our lives are intersecting here at Virtus Communications, and together we're moving forward. And so I see leadership in every single one of you. I see you leading. So there's three things. Let's recap. Three things that a leader must do. They must have vision. They must align their actions to consistently, right? They must align their actions consistently with what they see as possible or their vision, and then they must journey with those who choose to follow. It's a choice. So, three things that I cannot, or any leader cannot delegate to anyone else. They have to see, they have to align their actions, and they have to journey with those who choose to follow. So, what is the definition of leadership? Here's my definition of leadership. Leadership is seeing what is possible, consistently aligning your actions toward what you see as possible, and journey with those who choose to follow. That's leadership. I can sit down with each one of you and I can talk to you, and we can talk, and I can take this definition and say, you know what? You're a leader. Because there's times in your life when you've done this very thing. It's not about what the end result is. Like I say, it's not about, we can't focus on, am I accomplishing some great cause? Am I doing something to where the world is going to recognize me and stand up and applaud? No. It's learning to lead right where you are. And you all have been leading right where you are. And at Vertus Communications, we're going to celebrate that. We are going to acknowledge leadership. We're going to acknowledge what you all are doing right where you are to help what? Move Vertus forward. Leadership is seeing what is possible, consistently aligning your actions toward what you see as possible, and journeying with those who choose to follow. That is leadership. If you ask me what is leadership, I now have a definition. It's not some cliche. It's personal now. And I'm excited about the journey moving forward because I'm excited to work and to continue this journey with each one of you. And so as we go back and look at some of the things that we talked about, examples of leadership, those examples of leadership fit that definition of leadership. Moving to a new location, traveling to a new city, these are just examples. Improving processes. We're at Vertus Communication. We're all about improving, getting better, right? We don't want to stay stagnant. We want to grow. I've seen each of you do this. Leadership is seeing what is possible, consistently aligning your actions toward what you see as possible, and journeying with those who choose to follow. So, what's going to change here at Vertus Communications? We're no longer going to have quarterly performance reviews. We're going to have quarterly leadership reviews. You're a leader. So we're going to engage. We're going to engage you in that with that perspective. We're all leaders. We're all born to lead. So the 3 questions that are going to be on our quarterly leadership reviews are going to be, what do you see? Right? It's important that we know what you see. Because you have a perspective about our business, you have a perspective about our clients that I won't necessarily see where I am. Jaime's a great example. Jaime's always, hey Charles, this is going on. I mean, he's telling me what he's seeing in the field. We have some opportunities with another client that was all as a result of Jaime and his leadership in the field. The consistency by which he carries himself, how he leads himself within our industry. We have work. We have the potential for more work because of his leadership. Jaime's not worried about position. He's not worried about title. He's just leading right where he's at. And I see that when we provide quality services, when we support our customers, and when we do things not like everyone else is doing, say we're going to treat our customers this way. That's leadership. Moving things forward. I've seen that in every one of your actions. Others of you have impacted, have made a difference in the markets that you're in. And we're getting more work and more business. Why? Because you're leading right where you're at. So 3 questions are going to be on the quarterly leadership reviews. We're going to ask you the question, what do you see as possible? How are you consistently aligning your actions toward what you see right where you're at? How is the journey going with those who follow? We all impact everyone in some way. We're a family. We're part of a team. We influence each other. And finally, the monthly Vertus Spirit Award will now be called the Vertus Leadership Award. We're going to celebrate leadership. We're going to acknowledge those team members that are leading right where they are. And so, as I close, we're getting ready to transition to the AMC Theater. For those employees that are online, sorry you're not here. But what I will say, okay, is that for those employees that are online, you can take a +1 to the movies, all right, to go see The Greatest Showman, all right? This is a phenomenal movie. I want us to go experience this. This movie just, December 21st is when I got the aha moment. 5 to 6 days later, I'm watching this movie and I'm just on the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's leadership. Just to see the process and where the movie Fled tells a great story. So we're going to see The Greatest Showman. But I'm excited. I want to say thank you all for just making this a reality. Okay. And the plan is, as we move forward, we're going to do these once a month, and we're going to talk about what is leadership. We're going to promote it. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to engage so that we can lead Virtus, so that you can help us lead Virtus into its future. Thank you very much.